Could China be on track to becoming the next dominant force in the Middle East? Over the past decade, China has become the largest trading partner and foreign investor for several nations in the Middle East, expanding its presence there in the economic, political, and, to a lesser extent, security spheres. Nonetheless, the country's expanding economic footprint suggests it will involve the area more broadly, which might seriously affect European interests. China's rising economic presence in the Middle East has compelled it to strengthen its engagement with the region while being a relative newcomer and taking a cautious approach to local political and security concerns. Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain are some of the richest countries in the world. Due to their petroleum natural resources, their economy had been boosted multiple times. These countries are gradually securing their important position in world economics and politics. China's relations with these countries are making China stronger and more influential than ever before, as the Gulf countries are connected geopolitically, religiously, and culturally. This helps China to develop a strong bond with Gulf countries. China's economic interest in the Middle East. China's energy demands and the Belt and Road Initiative of 2013 motivate most of the country's Middle Eastern attention. As of 2015, the Middle East was China's principal source of crude oil, supplying about half of the country's crude oil needs. The Belt and Road Initiative is intended to position China at the core of global trade networks, and the Middle East is a crucial node due to its location at a crossroads for trade routes and sea lanes connecting Asia to Europe and Africa. For the time being, China is concentrating its regional ties on the Gulf states because of their preeminent importance in the world's energy markets. While China is expanding its regional interest in the Middle East, the United States is losing its influence over the Middle East. The USA was always involved in the Middle East in one way or another, whether it was through the war in Afghanistan, Iraq, political tensions with Iran, or the weapon deals with Saudi Arabia. But China is making a strong grip on the Middle East with its wise policies that are threatening United States interests. As the United States' long-held supremacy in the region shows signs of waning, European leaders are debating China's potential role in the region's security architecture. China is making smart moves as Beijing and Riyadh negotiate a transfer from the dollar to the yuan for the sale of oil, while China has U.S. assets worth more than $1 trillion. Washington would likely consider any attempt to decouple the Saudi riyal from the dollar as an attempt to undermine the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. Therefore, this is unlikely to occur. Despite the tensions between the two countries, Washington continues to view Saudi Arabia as a vital partner and provide it with advanced armaments. China's primary focus is on the Middle East. China is only focusing on its economic growth in the Middle East. China is avoiding all sorts of conflicts and political tensions at this moment and is deciding to stay away from any conflict with the United States. This official Chinese account can be questioned, but Beijing is not seeking a clash with Washington on any topic apart from the South China Sea and the competition for technological and economic dominance. There is no desire to escalate tensions between the two countries, which would rather deal with current challenges like fully recovering from the COVID pandemic outbreak, the conflict in Ukraine, and climate change. While Beijing supports Russia's struggle against U.S. hegemony, it abstained from the UN Security Council vote condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Middle East appears to remain on the sidelines of the conflict between the two superpowers. China Trade Network Policy. European officials should begin including China in their considerations of the Middle East due to the rising geopolitical competition caused by China's regional development. The Arab Policy Paper from 2016 and the Vision and Actions on Jointly Building Silk Road Economic Belt and 21st Century Maritime Silk Road from 2015 emphasize the importance of economic cooperation and development in China's engagement with Middle Eastern countries. China and Middle Eastern countries deal. The energy industry, infrastructure improvement, regional trade, and investment are the key focuses of the cooperation framework. As for Beijing's claims that its presence in the region serves neither Beijing's nor Washington's geopolitical aspirations, these statements barely touch on security cooperation. Beijing is careful not to duplicate what it sees as Western interference, and instead promotes a narrative of neutral engagement with all countries, including those at odds with one another, based on mutually beneficial deals. China has a vision of a multipolar order in the Middle East based on non-interference and cooperation with other states, in which China will support stability through developmental peace rather than the Western definition of democratic peace. Since Saudi Arabia is China's largest Middle Eastern commercial partner, and Iran is becoming an increasingly important asset for the Belt and Road Initiative, China is stuck trying to strike a delicate balance between the two genuine adversaries. By staging a joint naval exercise with Iran and then a counter-terrorism drill with the Saudis in the same year, Beijing has shown that it is committed to maintaining a delicate balance with both parties. The highest level is the Comprehensive Strategic Relationship, which is designated for countries that China believes to be important diplomatic and economic partners on a global scale. Xi Jinping struck similar agreements with three of the Middle East's most powerful countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iran, during a visit to the region in 2016. China and UAE ties. This classification further evidences China's recognition of the United Arab Emirates as a major Middle East North Africa power. Financial ties between the two parties were solidified early on. The United Arab Emirates is China's second-largest economic partner in the Middle East, behind only Saudi Arabia, with total bilateral trade reaching about $53 billion last year. Over 230 Chinese businesses in the Middle East have set up shop at Dubai's financial and business hub. More than 4,000 Chinese firms serve the Emirates, and the number of Chinese expatriates living there rose to almost 200,000 from around 30,000 in 2006. The United Arab Emirates is an appealing center for China because of its economic ties to China and its superior regional infrastructure. In a joint statement establishing the Comprehensive Strategic Relationship, the two governments made a 10-point commitment to collaborate in sectors ranging from politics and culture to trade and commerce. The information placed a heavy emphasis on security and military cooperation, particularly in counterterrorism, maritime security, and cooperative people training. China sees the United Arab Emirates' influential role as a chance to strengthen ties with a rising Middle Eastern state at a time when Beijing wants regional stability. China's alliance might give them economic or political clout that could help future plans. China's diplomatic policies in the Middle East. China has progressively created strong, multifaceted political and economic links with all nations in the Middle East using a wide variety of foreign policy tools. Established in 2000, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation promotes cooperation with nations across North Africa and the rest of the African continent on many political, economic, and security concerns. The China-Arab States Cooperation Forum was established in 2004 to facilitate communication between China and the member states of the League of Arab States. The position and goals of China in the Middle East might have long-term effects on regional stability and political dynamics, but many officials need to be made aware of this significance. The number of members from the Middle East in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is growing. Iran became an official member this year, and Turkey is now a conversation partner, with hopes of eventually becoming a full member. This year also saw the addition of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Qatar as conversation partners. Next year should see the addition of the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain. Since 2004, China has had a special envoy for the Middle East, whose primary emphasis is the Middle East peace process, and since 2016, China has had a special envoy for Syria, whose primary goal is the resolution of the Syrian civil war. China's connections to influence the Middle East have expanded greatly during the past 2 decades. China's commerce with the Middle East overtook the United States more than 10 years ago, and it is now a major source of foreign investment and technological collaboration. China's commerce with the area has surpassed the United States in recent years. The United States spent $34 billion importing from the Middle East in 2021, while China spent $129 billion exports to the area. U.S. foreign direct investment equities and the durability of U.S. corporate relationships both show that the country is still very much invested in the region economically. The benefit is, however, diminishing as time goes on. China is making wise diplomatic policies for different regions. Due to its policies, China has made friendly relations with the Middle Eastern and other Asian countries. Along with the Silk Road, China is working with Pakistan as well. Due to this, China is gradually taking hold of the world and expanding its global presence. According to different reports from expert sources, one can assume that China will soon dominate the globe with its wise diplomatic and economic policies, bringing a threat to other superpowers.